Hi everyone, this is a picture of an iron throne that I made for my sister for Christmas. It is made out of EVA foam. If you look at the map sequence just before this one, when the throne comes out of the ground, that's the order that I cut the sheets of EVA foam. You just cut it to match your particular foam. This first picture is that EVA foam glued together with hot glue. If you look at the front cushion where your back of your knees would go, I built that up. I rounded it over. The EVA foam did not cut very well, so I rounded it off with hot glue. The swords on the top that look like a fan, and the little triangles that go out at the base of the chair are PVC pipe. There were leftover scraps that I had from making the bone sides project. You can see in those videos how to cut and press those out flat. You don't need to see me do that again. So then what I ended up doing was I shaped the foam. I sanded it so it would be a little bit more tapered so it wouldn't just come to a clunky end. I built up where the triangles hit the chair itself, the throne, with glue just because I didn't want them to be wobbly. If you look on this picture, there's a little dark circle in the back of the throne on the back, and how this foam bent. I hit it with a heat gun and it curved, and that's how we ended up getting that. I got it a little too hot, but it did bend. So, and this is a picture of the phone in the throne itself. How I did the swords was two ways. Well, actually three ways. This first big sword that goes across the front of the throne is cut plastic. I did one or two of those. I didn't like the way they were. They'd crack. They were just a pain. The other parts are leather scrap. I had leather string. I had a sheet of leather that I cut into strips using a ruler. You can see the little triangle bits on the cutting mat. I glued them in place, overlapped them. They're a lot more flexible than a real sword to bend. So, next picture we have little air-dried clay hilts that I made. They're just the hilts and the pommels of the swords. I did that just a few times just because I didn't want all the sword bases to look the same. I think that would have looked a little cheesy. So then we moved up to, you can see I started to attach the little cocktail swords. You can see a big pile of the handles in the back of this picture on that little paper towel, and you can see all the little hand guards and all that stuff. I was trying to just make the swords kind of individualized, so I didn't want them to all look boring and the same and blah. So I nipped everything. I was using the swords, the blades itself. This picture here, you can see how I mixed the swords, the little plastic swords, the little cocktail swords, the different kinds of leather, and it gives you a little bit close up of how I put the plastic PVC onto the foam. So this next picture is just a picture in the front. You can kind of see you want it, if you look at the pictures, the swords, the big ones in the back, had smaller swords with them. So you really don't want it to be so monotonous. Now the back was kind of a pain just because I was weaving so many of these swords. You can see how I just cut the blades off the swords and hot glued them on the back. And then I had some of the swords that I weaved in the middle. So here is the basic model of the throne before I painted it. You can see there's some just shorter leather, thinner leather, thicker. I cut them with a razor, and I glued the hilts, crossguard handles, all that stuff, just to give it a little variety. So then you can see on the base of this picture, I put hot glue around the base of it to make it look like melted iron, like in the actual Iron Throne. How I did this without sticking it to the wood was I just put down some wax paper, and so that basically melted without causing me too much of a headache. This is the side view. You can see how I wrapped the swords around those spikes sticking out on the bottom, just to give it some curvature so they didn't look like they were just stuck on there. There's the back with a couple of the swords. I think it looks pretty good. It looks a bit of a mess now, but when you paint it, it looks pretty sharp. This one we're going to zoom in. You can kind of see how I used hot glue just to texturize between the swords. When I first looked at it, it looked like it was going to be flat and kind of so I used the hot glue and just pushed it around and made it look like it was melted iron. You could also see how that front piece where the back of your legs go, I made it a little bit taller than the cushion of the seat, just because I didn't want the phone to slide off. So, and this is what it looks like painted. You can see a little bit closer here, and the wood base is just 1-inch plain common pine. I think it was a 1x10. I cut it down into a circle. It was into a 1x9 that would fit this design. I think that looks pretty good. I then used before I painted the throne, I had to paint it with PVC primer paint. It's a clear plastic paint. So once I did that, I sprayed it with Hammerite. So that gave it the bronze kind of finished. Not a real smooth paint, so that's kind of what I wanted. And the wood base, I painted that with artificial stone. I think it was sprayed granite, but I'm not positive. And so now we'll show you a couple pictures of what it looks like.